All right, Sal. So tell me the biggest mistakes you see buyers making in the market right now.
Yeah, good question. Good question. Yeah, so I'll lay it down. Let's stick to three of them, Phil. First one would be using your credit during escrow, right? We pull credit from the beginning. Credit looks great, and then borrower decides to go buy furniture, right? Anticipating the closure of the property, trying to get ready for everything, putting everything on a credit card, financing, stuff like that. And yeah, it jeopardizes everything, right? So one would be using your credit during escrow, right? That's one thing you should stay away from. Keep everything quiet the way it was when you pulled credit and stay put until we close, right? A second one would be leaving your job, right? So you're earning X amount of dollars. We're qualifying you based off of that, right? And then you decide to jump ship, go somewhere else, and income potentially drops, right? Maybe there's a higher upside in the future, stuff like that. But income, if it does lower, then throws off all the numbers. Income increases, yeah, it only improves your situation. But to have a gap in employment or no employment is going to jeopardize us being able to close, because everything is verified to the very end until we close. So keeping the same job, right?
And when you say, like, let's say you do get an increase, but you have to stay in the same field, so to speak, correct? Like,
not necessarily.
Really?
That used to be something of the past, right? What we really want is a 2-year work history, 24 months consecutive. Yes, there's exceptions that you can make, right? Depending if someone just graduated, right? Let's just say we take a nurse, for example. Mm-hmm. Someone has gone to school for a long period of time, be an RN, they graduate, right? And then they get a job as an RN 1 week later. Well, they don't have a 2-year work history, but we can use them. We can use their schooling as a 2-year work history. Got to think about it from the underwriter's perspective. Their thinking is how does this borrower pay back the loan that we just gave them, right? So someone that's gone to school for 6 years, 4 years, got certified, goes into the same field, the confidence is there that they're going to stay in that field for a long period of time. We don't need a 2-year work history, right? We use the schooling as a 2-year work history. Someone that gets certified, someone that's there's a specialist, right? They graduate from a 4-year degree. We could use that, right? So
what if sorry to interrupt, but what if let's say a mechanic, doing his thing for 3-4 years, and then jumps into truck driving?
Sure.
Does that become an issue, or?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you think about it, a truck driver needs a license, right?
Right.
More times than not, they need a license, right? But let's just say they don't. Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So long as there's not a big gap in employment, or even if there is, we could explain it. Going from one industry to the next, it does not affect the borrower. It does not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always thought otherwise. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, of course. And to touch on a third, a no-no, right? Something that you don't want to do is lending your credit to somebody else, right? Credit is a huge deal in financing the property. Mm-hmm. So if someone comes to you and say, hey, can I help? Can I get help? Can you help me qualify for a car that I looked at that I need to get around in, XYZ, whatever, it might be tough, but you got to say no, right? You're in escrow to buy a home for you and your family. And at this point, we can't do anything too different with credit. And the reason for that is because when you help somebody qualify for a car, let's say, for example, you're adding to your liabilities. You're increasing your liabilities. How much is your minimum obligation every single month? Well, it's increased, and it's increased by a few $100s, right? To finance a car is a couple $100 minimum, right? $250 figure. It's a big car. Let's call it $800. It's a lot of money. So that'll throw your whole debt to income ratio off.
Mm.
So, when you're in escrow, you don't want to touch your credit. You don't want to do anything. And you definitely don't want to lend it out. You don't want to help anybody qualify for a car or even a house or anything else that has to deal with your credit.
Okay, so um, don't make any crazy purchases while you're in escrow.
Yeah,
Don't lend your credit to anybody, and don't change employment if necessary. And if you do, make it a short gap, and just not, don't make it lengthy, right? But
absolutely. Absolutely. There's got to be a reason, right, for the change. And usually we
right.
could explain that with the letter of explanation. And most times they're not, it makes sense. But we just got to understand the change. But if you can hold tight, it just makes things a whole lot easier.